right? For me, it's more about the journey to get there and what you do every day. So looking at the people that you surround yourself with, right? And what do you value in them? Do something every day where you feel accomplished.
Awesome, welcome to episode 11 of In Full Effect. Today we have Javier from Hustle Gym. We've been setting this up for a while. Yeah. Super excited for this because I've been actually talking to you a lot about this and you've always been very supportive to the cause. The reason I'm actually very excited for this episode is because we literally just have these conversations, what I kind of have on the podcast. So why not just record this in a proper episode that everything is in one nice, concise...
Yeah, perfect. I love it. Thanks a lot for having me, man. It's been super exciting to follow the journey of the podcast as well. I'm honestly so amazed at at your consistency, right? Normally people start a podcast, they'll try it a couple of times and they're like, oh, this is too difficult.
Too much work, yeah.
But you're putting in the work week in and week out, already 11 episodes, which is awesome.
And we also been following each other's personal stories for a while, right? The way we met is actually Javier hired us to shoot some of his videos for the gym. And actually since then we connected pretty well and we kept in touch and literally saw the gym grow. You saw us grow, so it's super exciting.
And I think our stories, although they're very different in some ways, they also have a lot of similarities in how we ended up in Vietnam and why we're in Vietnam. So I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah, true. So Javier's from Spain. He lived in London for a while as an investment banker.
Yeah.
And now as a gym owner and life enjoyer.
Yeah, so a bit of background. So I grew up in Madrid my whole life till I was 18. And then I was not the best student in high school, I have to say. I enjoyed more the sports angle of growing up. So I was always super active. I think I was fortunate enough in that my parents were able to put me in a lot of these sports growing up. So I, grew up playing tennis, swimming, playing football, a lot of football. So I really was into the outdoors, into the fitness element. And then, in school, I also liked to play video games, not gonna lie. And it was not until I went to university. So I went to Canada in Nova Scotia, where it was a small school, Nova Scotia, Atlantic Canada. It was like 5,000 people, like super remote.
That's East, right?
East Coast, yeah. So there's this small city called Halifax in Canada, beautiful city. And then 2 hours away from that, that's where my university was, St. Francis Xavier University, yeah. So it was like the opposite of big city, Madrid, Europe. But part of me really was looking forward to that challenge or to that environment. It was definitely outside of my comfort zone. It was something that I was curious about. It was a little bit also a new beginning for me as well, trying to, start studying hard and trying to make something out of my life, right? So it was really in uni that I started to put in the work and joined business school, and I did my business and economics degree there. And I think also both things kind of started to merge together, both the business side of things that I really love and also the fitness side. So I was in the varsity football team for a few years while I was in uni. And I think I found really my spot there.
How long were you in uni for there?
4 years.
4 years in Canada.
Yeah, 4 years in Canada. So I do 8 months there of school, and then I have like 4 months off in the summer because we had long summer breaks. And there's when I would go to Europe. I'd do internships in companies. So I did an internship in a hospitality company one summer, in a private equity company, my stepfather's private equity company. And I also traveled, and it was actually during my first year, after my first year of university, that I came to Vietnam. And I traveled with friends. I just like backpacker style, end up in Huy Vien at 4 in the morning with some big balloons. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So that was kind of my intro to Southeast Asia.
So what made you decide to come back to Vietnam and run a gym?
Good question. So I think there are a number of factors come at play, and I've been asking myself this question ever since I got here, like how the hell did you end up in Vietnam? And I always give a different answer depending on who I'm talking to and depending on what I feel like that day. But really, I think it's a mix of things. It's a mix of influences in my life, right? So when I look at the things that have motivated me or driven me or shaped the way I am, I don't have to look further than the people that I really look up to and the things and the books I've read that I was most drawn to. So we all have like certain books that will bring us back or that we always think about or that had significant impact. For me, it was a couple of books. So the first one was Shantaram. Have you read Shantaram?
No, not
yet. It's by Greg Roberts, this Australian guy that escaped from prison in Australia and ended up in India. And in India, he became like, I mean, he did all sorts of things, but he moved around in like all sorts of social circles and kind of, hustled his way around India for a while, and then wrote this book about his experiences there. And I really loved the adventure side of that book. Like another book that really impacted me was, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. So I really recommend this one. So it's the story of how Phil Knight founded Nike. And basically what I was drawn to in this book was his kind of entrepreneurial journey to end up founding Nike. So in the US, I think what really made him stand out amongst the rest was obviously his drive and the idea that he had, and he saw potential, his perseverance to keep going, and also the people he surrounded himself with. So I think that adventure there is also kind of something that spoke to me, right? So, the Shantaram book, this one, like there was always a mix of adventure there, an entrepreneurial initiative. And then I guess another book that comes to mind is No Rules Rules by Hastings, the founder of Netflix. So it's on the Netflix culture. And for me, this book also changed the way I look at a lot of things in terms of how I run Hustle, how I build the team at Hustle, how I approach the way I work. And what stood out in this book was that Netflix is an organization that runs purely on hiring super, super good, talented people and people who believe in the vision of Netflix and who will die for the company, right? And they're kind of cutthroat in that sense, but everyone that's working there seems to have this kind of, hey, we're at Netflix, this is the best company, we are the best, and there's no limits as to what we can or cannot do, right? So there's also a little bit of an entrepreneurial way of working at this company that I'm trying to bring into my own life, into my own business. So a mix of all these things, of business, of adventure, kind of led me to go from one country to another, right? So I ended up in London doing investment banking, so that was a super interesting experience. But then I felt there was something missing, right? And I never started a business before. I don't know. You probably hear this a lot as well. A lot of entrepreneurs will say, yeah, I had a ton of businesses growing up. I started selling this in school. Like, I never had these stories.
It's like Gary Vee style. It's
exactly. Like, everyone thinks, hey, to be an entrepreneur, you've had that bug since you were born, basically. Yeah. There were things that I did, I guess, that were maybe a little bit more entrepreneurial, but I think entrepreneurship is also about taking risks and about being comfortable in the uncomfortable. And exactly, I think that is more what, I've definitely had experiences there that I enjoyed. So it was this feeling of trying to do something that I was out of my comfort zone completely, and the curiosity as well, that kind of led me to come to Asia. And also the people around me as well had a massive impact. So my mom, my stepfather, they both came here on travel. And they came back saying, oh my God, Vietnam has so much potential. And it was a mix of all of these things. So, both my upbringing and the people around me that kind of one day it clicked, and I said, man, we got to do this. I said, Erin, my fiance, I said, Erin, I have this crazy idea. Let's do it. And for her, it was a little bit like, what? A bit more shocking. But she ended up coming around to it. And here we are.
Exactly. Well, it's been working out pretty well so far.
Yeah, we've had for sure it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah, interesting is one way to put it.
Yeah.
Like the next question is, what are your goals? But what I want to know for you is, how did they shape? Were they always there? Like, did you always wanted to open a gym in Vietnam, or how did your goals become like tangible?
Yeah, I think my goals. Again, this is also a question that I sometimes struggle answering because they change a lot. My goals are different one year, then the next they change. I guess, we're always told like, hey, you need, very specific goals. You need to set targets. You need to kind of aspire to something, right? And although there's some truth to it, right? And I think it's very important to have direction. I think you also have to be open to goals changing, right? 100%. So I guess if you ask me now, right now we opened Hustle 3 years ago. So, no, 2.5 already. So came to Vietnam in the beginning of 2019.
Yeah, that's when I came.
Yeah, sorry, in January. And then for 6 months, traveled the country, got to know the north, the south, got to know Vietnam a little bit more, culture, how business is done here. I mean, I think that was very important to understand. And then one day I was sitting down having a beer with my girlfriend, Erin, and we're both like, hey, why don't we, open up a gym? We had gone to this fitness studio in Canada when we were living there that we really loved, and there was nothing quite like that here. So we're like, can't be that hard, right? You're like, let's take a space, rent it out, hire a few coaches. I didn't know a lot about fitness. I knew enough. But again, it was about surrounding myself with the right people at the time who really helped in setting up the fitness side of things. But yeah, I think what I loved the most about that was the kind of the hustle of getting a business up and running. It's like almost an addictive feeling, right? Totally. Yeah, you get the idea and then you start researching on it and then you start talking to people about it. Then you believe it's the best idea in the world. Then something happens the next day and someone shuts it down and you're like, maybe I'm an idiot for doing this. And then the next day is completely different. Yeah, exactly. Right?
It's very emotional, actually, running a business or visualizing and conceptualizing an idea and going for it.
Exactly. It's like the adrenaline is so high, right? So we ended up setting it up and opening. So we found this location that we're sitting in now in June 2019. And by October, we were already up and running. So it was quite a quick turnaround from concept to open. And since then, the business has gone through all sorts of ups and downs, more ups than downs, I'd say. But not to mention 3 months after we opened, we had a big pandemic around the world that forced us to shut down. And for 2 years, it's been like open, close, open, close. A lot of members leaving Vietnam because we have a large expat base here in Thao Dien. So it's been definitely quite challenging. So for me, what's really helped is one, having the support of the people that I'm doing this with. So Erin, our team here, which is fantastic. And also I think just persevering through all of that, trying to stay positive and also working a lot on myself. So, I've done a lot of self-work, a lot of therapy, a lot of coaching, and just trying to kind of live it day by day. And it's brought us to where we are today, which is, I think, an awesome place where we're at. So we have this one gym where, I think we're now growing back up after COVID. We opened a second location in Go Vap, which is more geared towards Vietnamese market, trying to bring more Vietnamese here to Thao Dien as well. And slowly we're getting there. But, it's a fantastic business that we're building here. And what I love the most about it is kind of building the Hustle brand, training the team, and really the people that we're working with are just unbelievable. Like there's so much talent in Vietnam, and if you give them a good place to work, you lead them the right way, you incentivize them the right way, you give them, empower them, and give them the ability to make choices. I think you'd be surprised how much they hustle.
Yeah. I think the way you do it here is a whole different mindset than how normal local businesses run their teams.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I think it's more thinking long term. You often hear in Vietnam, it's like, how quickly can I open this thing up, get as much cash as I can in the first few months, and then close and open something else, right?
Yeah, that's Vietnam mentality, and that's indeed something you have to move away from here. Yeah. But would you say like the way you persisted in keeping this gym going through hard times, is that also because that not to give up after some struggles, and that you realize, and that's what I want to know, if you got that taught by someone, or is it just like by education, that being in that uncomfortable, that it's actually where the growth is? Yeah. How did that go for you?
Yeah, so I think that definitely there's been points where I'm just like, let's quit, let's close this. Like, what are we doing, right? We're wasting our time. This is never going to work. Take the losses and just, go back to Spain, go back to Canada and get a job, right?
Get a job.
And I think it was at those times where, it's a mindset, right? It's, talking to people about it, communicating, hey, this is what I'm going through, and then people helping and supporting you. I think that's very important. And just staying strong mentally and pushing through it, and also taking care of yourself, right? I mean, this as well. I mean, you're quite active guy. I think definitely physical activity in sports helps a lot in processing things. So, you know, whether it's going for a 5K run after, you know, you've been in your head for, you know, 4 hours, you know, trying to, you know, figure out what's happening. You know, then you go for a 30-minute run. You come back from the run, you're like, everything makes sense. Right? Everything makes sense.
I knew it all along.
Yeah. So that helps me a lot. It's clearing my head and going out and doing things, and also listening to podcasts. I'm a big podcast guy, you know, listening to a lot of entrepreneurs who've gone through similar things, right? And also people who talk about mindset. And I think this is why I love what you're doing here with this series, because it's about mindset, right? And that's what shapes, all of us. So
yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
So the big question of the podcast, of the episode, is, what is your full potential?
Good question. Good question. What is my full potential? So for me, it's not a point in time, right? It's not like, hey, you know, in 3 years, if I achieve X amount of revenues, or if I open X amount of gyms, I will have reached my full potential, right? Or, you know, if I make a certain amount of money by the age of 35, right? Like, you can have those goals, but that's not what's going to determine whether you're at your full potential, right? For me, it's more about the journey to get there and what you do every day, right? And how you live your day to day, right? So take an average week, right, of your life, right? What does that week look like? Are you proud of what you've done that week? Is your behavior during that week something that you'd like to consistently be doing? Can you improve some things of what you've done that week, right? So, for example, for me, I think that there's certainly things that I have to improve 100%, and I'm working through them, but there's also a lot of things that I'm very proud of what I'm doing, right? So whether that is, hey, having a good routine, right? Waking up, getting some exercise in, you know, going to a coffee shop and getting work done for 3 hours in the morning, right? Feeling productive, right? Setting up meetings with the right people, right? Building a good team, spending time with the team, motivating the team. Like, if after a week you look back and you're proud of what you've done and you can say, hey, every day I've accomplished something, I think for me, you're already living at a pretty high potential, okay? So also, like, it doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're working at a company, whether you have a 9-to-5 job, whether you have a freelance nomadic lifestyle, right? I think any of these is right. And it depends on you, right? So if you're working in an office 9 to 5, that's totally awesome as long as you love what you're doing, right? I know a lot of people that work at companies and they really, really enjoy what they're doing. They're working on a very exciting project with a bigger purpose, right? And they wake up and when they go to the office, they give 100%. They're a joy to work with. Everyone in the company likes to work with them. They like to work with people around them, right? They show up to work happy and excited. I think these people are also living at pretty high, call it potential, right? It's when you're doing something that you're not enjoying, right? It's when you're going to an office job, and this is where the stigma of, I work 9 to 5, oh my God, your life sucks, right? Which is not necessarily true. It's true if you hate the job, right? If you hate the people you're working with, right? So for me, living full potential, going back to your original question, is, it's a series of behaviors that you're doing on a daily basis that will help you get to whatever those goals are that you have. And right now, I'd say that, you know, I'm doing a lot of things right, or that I like and enjoy, but there's certainly things that I have to tweak, whether it's like being more organized as a person, right? Sometimes I'm a bit of a mess. You know, expired passports, then it takes me forever to get a renewal, like all this kind of stuff, like that I have to get admin in order. Like definitely a lot of chaos in my life sometimes. I could be much more organized, and something I'm working through. And yeah, but I think, you know, if it's the sum of small things that hopefully will help get to the goals, and that's for me what full potential is. Does that make sense? Yeah, so for you, it's more like how the results of what you did is the way it makes you feel. The way it makes you feel. Is that how you measure it? Because you can be very content with what you did in a week, but then I wonder, is that only work related or health related? But for example, when you go on a holiday and you had a good holiday, is that also a full potential? 100%. I mean, I think, you know, we all need holidays, and when I go on holiday, I also make sure that I'm I try to be 100% present, right? Sometimes, for example, I go on a holiday, and Aaron sometimes likes to complain about this, and I'll go on my phone, or we're sitting down in a coffee and there's beautiful scenery outside and I'm there answering emails, right? So I'm not fully present. So part of achieving your full potential, I think it's being incredibly present in what you're doing, right? Whether it's, hey, taking holiday, then take holiday and have a purpose, right? Whether it's, show up to work with a purpose. Whether it's coming here for a workout, right? Are you working out with an intention? Are you working out with a purpose, right? So our motto here is train with purpose, right? So it's like, are you living your life purposefully, right? And I think that has something to do with full potential, for sure.
Chasing that purpose.
Exactly. Chasing that purpose, whatever that is, or just being present and doing things with intention, I'd say. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like going back to the original point on having goals, right? You can have those goals, but what happens when you achieve them, right? So say, for example, your goal is, hey, I want to set up a $1 million business by the age of 30, right? I remember that was my goal when I was 21, right? So what happens after you get there, right? Is that it? Is that your full potential? Like, can you just then go to the beach and relax all day and like go and party in yachts, right? Or no, it's like, okay, so what else are you going to do after that? What are the behaviors and the things you do that allowed you to get there? I think that is what it's, for me, more inspiring for the people that I look up to. It's how they carry about with their lives and they live their day to day.
So it's working on those goals is more important than achieving. And I think also your goals evolve over time. Like, yes, you can have like set goals, but you make it sound that it's actually more how you do it and how you feel during it. And the goal, the physical goal, let's say, is more empowerment to follow and do what you need to do every day.
Exactly. Like with your podcast, right? I'm sure you have goals, right? I'm sure whether it's an audience. Well, what is your goal with this?
Well, the original goal is to figure out my own goals. So, and then somebody told me, well, here it is. That's your goal. Find your goals. Yeah. So that's one thing. Like, what happens once I found my goal? Yeah. But there's so much more with this podcast that it empowers other people doing the same thing. So it's also just the goal of sharing the message and spreading it so other people can benefit from it.
Exactly. And what would full potential mean for you with this podcast? Is it like, hey, once I've achieved that and I've grown to a certain amount of audience that are receiving this message, or is it, hey, what you do day in, day out?
I think now it's turning as a reverse.
Sorry, I did that.
Reverse interview. Huh? I think it's more that the full potential will be the max amount of people I can touch or influence in the right way at that present. Of course, like, it's very motivating when there's like, oh, there's so many views, people are watching, so many comments, likes, da da da. It's empowering, but the end goal is if what you're saying to me right now can help someone chase their dreams, then that's way more fulfilling than getting 1,000 views on an episode or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, let's hope.
Yeah, no, we're building up to
exactly.
So what does success mean to you then?
Success for me takes different forms depending on what you're looking at. So for hustle, hustle being successful for me would mean us having a very strong and vibrant community of members, of hustlers across all of our locations, right? So I think that is something that we're working towards. It's building community, it's increasing engagement, it's also getting results for our members, right? If you go to a gym, you want to make sure that you're getting your value and you're getting results. And I think hustle being successful will inevitably entails having a very strong member base. So that, I guess, is one, and a very strong community. I think personally right now I'm quite tied to hustle because I spend a lot of my time here with this business and growing this business. And I think definitely my personal goals are in some ways related to hustle's successful goals, right? So, but that's just one part of it. Success for me is also enjoying the process and enjoying being in the moment and not forgetting, you know, the small things that we're doing and all the small wins and being proud of that. I think, you know, if I can accomplish that, that for me can be success. Personal stuff, that means having, you know, spending time with those people around me and making sure that you invest in those relationships. I think, you know, the relationships around us are so important, you know, whether it's your family, whether it's your girlfriend, your fiance, right? I think for me, having a successful relationship with Erin means, you know, being also present when I'm with her, giving her everything that I can, right? From myself, you know, with my family, it's being there when they need me. It's, you know, supporting them and encouraging them in what they want to do. So I have 5 siblings, right? So, you know, sometimes being in Vietnam and being in the business side of things, I think you forget sometimes, hey, you know, I have this life outside of Vietnam with all these people that care about me and that I care about. So I think success for me also means connecting with that side of me and not forgetting that. So yeah, it takes different shapes. So also means hopefully achieving some of your goals, whether they're small or big. You know, in the short term, I'd say hopefully get Hustle back up to where it belongs. You know, having a very good, solid community of members and having a very strong team, which we're getting there. And for me personally, I think I love the entrepreneurial journey, and I definitely see myself starting more businesses in the future. So hopefully getting those businesses up and impacting as many people as I can through those businesses and building beautiful brands. I think, you know, hopefully that happens, and that for me is also a success.
So what would you say then, what is your long-term calling, or what is it that drives you forward? Like if you say that Hustle is not going to be your final product, what is it that's going to be?
For me, I'd say if in say 5 or 7 years, I can have Hustle at a place that I'm, you know, that is working, that is growing, that is touching as many people as possible, that is financially profitable, that is, you know, all these things that make a successful business, that is also self-sustainable in a way. You know, I think that it's important to find the right team in place to help you run the business, right? It cannot depend only on my efforts, right? Yeah, exactly. So, you know, what I've done since day one with Hustle is, you know, trying to build that team, that foundation, so that it can grow more organically as well. So for me, that is a big goal. Not because I don't want to eventually be involved with it. I love Hustle, and I think, you know, hopefully I can have Hustle forever and I can grow this business forever. That's definitely something that I'd love to do. But also because I'm by, you know, nature a very curious person, right? And as I mentioned earlier, I think that startup phase of starting businesses and brands gives me a lot of adrenaline and gives me a lot of drive. Actually complements my work at Hustle as well. Yeah. If I'm working on a new project, whether it's related to Hustle, related to fitness, or something completely different, right? So if I can, you know, build 1 or 2 more businesses, I'd love that. I think the people that I look up to a lot, whether it's young entrepreneurs who've found success in several different businesses, or more established people like Richard Branson, who started, you know, the Virgin Group. He kind of, you know, had a lot of failures, but also had a lot of different businesses. I'd love to do something like that. At that scale, maybe not, but my long-term goal is to build beautiful brands and businesses. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to do all of this, what are your core values? Not just for business, but also like for yourself.
So I think to answer the values question, for me, it's looking at the people that you surround yourself with, right? And what do you value in them, right? So normally the people that you hold closer to you, the characteristics or these characters are super important in identifying what you value, right? So people at Hustle that I work with, what do I value? I value positivity, you know? I think coming to work positive, wanting to get stuff done, bringing energy to the people around you, right? Not sucking energy out. These are things that I really try to live by myself, right? So bringing people up, not bringing people down. Having energy, also trust. I think I value trust a lot. You know, I think it's so important, whether it's with Erin at home, with my family, with people at Hustle. You know, we have very, very strong trust between each other. And if someone, for whatever reason, breaks that trust, for me, that's a big no. Looking at Erin, she transmits a lot of calmness and peacefulness and presence, right? Which I really value as well. I tend to be, quite anxious person, right? I like to be doing stuff all the time. And that complementary kind of balance is so important, right? That I really value that. I guess you could say those are definitely some of my core values, right? So honesty, trust, hard work, and positivity. Definitely hard work, If I look at the people around me, if, people like to work hard and hustle, that I value a lot. If someone is at hustle and they don't want to work hard or they don't enjoy what they're doing, I don't think this is the right place for them. I value that in myself as well.
That's cool. That's very interesting that you look at your environment and see what you value most, because in the end of the day, you're a product of your environment.
Exactly.
So that's actually a very interesting way of looking at it, because I know there's a lot of people that probably struggle at finding their core values.
Yeah.
Because in a previous episode with Wes, he kind of explained look, core values are the start of your personal development journey.
Yeah.
Figure that out first, but that's honestly the hardest step to take.
It's so hard, man. It's so hard.
But what you just said is, what do I think it is? But I look at the people around me that I choose to hang out with, choose to work with, choose to build my life with, and what are their values? Yeah. And that's actually...
Yeah, exactly. And
combination of...
And for example, even who you surround yourself as friends, right? I'm someone with few friends, but really good friendships, versus having a lot of friends with maybe not that meaningful, right? So for me, I value, again, that, trust and getting to know someone at a deeper level than having, a lot of friends socially and being super socially active, right? And I only can see that by looking at my environment around me, right? Also, who you're drawn to, right? I was drawn to you immediately because, you're someone who, went from traveling around Australia, New Zealand, ended up in Vietnam, starting your own business, right? You're hustling your way through it. Nothing has been given to you, right? You're working at it. You're working hard at it. And these qualities are things that I see in myself as well. And that's why you also tend to have natural connections with some people over others. Yeah. The last one would be curiosity. I think I really value people who are curious, right? And because those are the people who I tend to connect with a lot, people who want to learn, whether it's a new topic that we're exploring together or whether it's about each other. I tend to really connect with people who seek to understand, right? Because I'm like that. And it's very interesting because through that, I think it also teaches you a lot of humility in a way, because you end up realizing how little you know about everything. Oh, yes. Right?
That's a whole conversation it's called a certain paradox, right? That
I'm not sure.
The more you know, the smaller you feel.
Yeah, the more you know you don't know.
Yeah. And it's like when my first journey within photo and video was you just I understand this. It's I'm the best in the world, or I'm a pro almost. I can make money doing this. Yeah. And then every step further you take, it's one step further and your world opens up.
You obviously realize there's a whole other world that you haven't even touched on, right? Yeah. And you can go down the rabbit hole pretty easily, right? So it's also trying for you to kind of keep your ears open, but don't, so.
Curiosity can also discourage you. It's an experience thing. Yeah. Because I'm very curious as well. That's why we're in the same boat of people, I guess. That's that same thing of the more you start to know, and then it's it's too much, and then so it's also persistence then again, and the hustle mentality that within that.
And sometimes it's quieting some of that noise down, right? Because we can get very easily distracted. I myself am one who I'm obviously always going to be focusing on hustle, and I love it, right? Mm-hmm. But I often talk to other people about other industries, other business opportunities, and I start to get really excited about those as well. Yeah. And I can go down that route.
Oh, right?
And distract myself. So sometimes it's saying, okay, maybe not at this time. Yeah. Bring your focus back, right? So it's also knowing when to just kind of quiet that noise down.
My mentor always says, focus on one thing at a time. Yeah. Especially when, as an inexperienced person in a lot of things, just focus.
Exactly.
And challenge that and master that. Yeah. And once you have experience in mastering something, you can move on and maybe tackle multiple.
Yeah, exactly. Or mastering for me, for example, I mean, I'm never going to be the one who knows 100% everything about fitness, right? That's just never going to happen, right? I don't think anyone can ever know 100% of it, right? Do I know enough to be able to run a fitness business? I think I do. Am I surrounded with people at Hustle who know way more than I do about a certain topic? Absolutely, right? So it's also trying to surround yourself by people who are smarter than you in certain topics and working with them, right? Because I think it complements people like us very well who might have their ears open for many different types of things or don't want to specialize in a certain field, right? Because I think specializing, you can specialize in something for your entire life, right? So when do you say, okay, I know enough to move on to something else? Or, hey, maybe you enjoy it and you want to specialize in that forever, right? Who knows? Even with Hustle, sometimes it's hard to focus, right? You're like, okay, let's start a merchandise line. Let's go into technology. Let's go into YouTube and build a media company, right? And I'm like, man, you need to just chill out, focus on the one thing that you're doing, improve your product, listen to your community, get feedback, and take it a little bit slowly. That I think.
I very consciously did that with the podcasts, as I know there's so much more I could do to make this more successful or make this grow quicker. But I had to look into myself and see what's possible, because if I push it too hard, then I would lose interest, because then it would become an inconvenience that I don't want to pursue. So I'm really building it up step by step, very slowly, very consciously, getting good at one thing before moving on to the next one. Because in the end of the day, I'm doing this by myself, running it.
And sometimes it's about being consistent more than about doing too much too soon, right? Just like putting out a video every week is already hard enough. Yeah,
that's honestly one of the biggest tips or most valuable content I absorbed is consistency. It's the one thing I love hearing is it's all about showing up. And that mentality I use for everything. Showing up.
Just show up, get it done. And also about small gains, right? Like, I don't know if you've read Atomic Habits. It's
I love that.
Such a great book. And the whole idea is, do 1% better every day, right? And if you do 1% better every day over a year, you're going to be 37 times better than when you started, right?
Instead of just going full blast immediately, you can't keep up.
And we tell our members this all the time at Hustle. And I'm also a victim of this as well. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm going to work out super hard for 2 months. And then I'll get distracted or slack off for a little bit, right? And then it's a little bit harder to get into it next time, right? Whereas the times when I've been the happiest, the most, the most fit, right? It's just when I've been really consistent, Not every day, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, but just be consistent week in, week out. Don't try to lose 20 kilograms in a month, right? By starving yourself. It's like, just lose a little bit every month, a little bit every month. Change.
It's also way healthier to do things that way.
Exactly. It's way healthier. And also, it's much easier to stick to it, right? Like one of the things they talk about in Atomic Habits is if you want to build up a new habit, don't make your goal massive. Don't challenge yourself or change something super dramatically, because you're not going to stick to it, right? If you want to go for runs every morning, start by just getting up and going outside, right? A couple times.
Like getting the gym clothes on.
Putting your gym clothes on first. You can go back to bed after, right? If you do this for a week, then inevitably you're going to build up that habit of waking up, putting your gym clothes on.
It's habit stacking.
Exactly.
That's out of that book. That's one of the things I took out most is habit stacking. Getting in the habit of, okay, I get up, what do I do next? And what do I do next? Because I did this, your body immediately flows into the next thing. And obviously you have to make it so it makes sense. So not get up, get into gym clothes, but actually you have to go to work.
Exactly.
Does it make sense?
So you have to put your schedule around that so you can have the time to do it, right?
So for you, what is your ideal lifestyle one day?
My ideal lifestyle is one where I have freedom to work remotely. I think that's something that I really value. It's being able to wake up and work at home or go to a coffee shop or even travel and keep working, right? So Hustle, being a physical business, sometimes does require me to be here quite a lot, which is fine and I really love it. But the way I'd like to build the business is that, it has the right team in place that is, very well trained and understands the operations very well. So that if I do want to go and travel for a little bit, I can do that, right? If I want to go see my family, I can do that. So I think having freedom and flexibility is really important for me. Entrepreneurial ventures, I love them, so I think the ideal lifestyle is working on some businesses that I've started and that really give me passion and that I derive a lot of passion from and purpose from. So combining that freedom with doing something that I really love and enjoy, that I can call, my own, and it's a project that I've started that I love. Being surrounded by very interesting people, I think that's something that is very appealing to me as well, whether, you're going to conferences and you're meeting people who are experts in their field and attending speeches or seminars. I really love that because you get to learn so much from that. Or whether you're, setting up calls with random people who you've heard about, who you admire, and being able to get access to those people. I think that's something that I'd like to have in my lifestyle for sure. Yeah, and also living a little bit of a calm life sometimes, like
being able to switch off.
Yeah, being able to also be consistent, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes there's too many things going on and people want to travel too much and and me too. And sometimes I'm just like, I just need 3 months of not traveling too much, of just waking up, hitting the gym, being consistent, working on hustle, working on these other projects that I'm doing, right? And just having that focus, right? That is something that is also important in my lifestyle, having consistency and a little bit of routine.
Yeah, it's actually quite easy to say like you want consistency, but for me, running a business, living together with someone, going through life changes and stuff, it's actually super hard to be consistent.
Yeah, 100%.
In anything.
Yeah.
For longer than a week.
Yeah.
It's just so difficult because either you have financial struggles and you need to double down on work to meet ends meet, or like if you want to work out consistently, but work is then too much, or you're not spending enough time with your loved ones anymore.
Yeah.
So it's actually very hard.
And you have to sacrifice some things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds light that you want to be consistent, but to be really consistent is you have to sacrifice a lot.
Exactly.
Or you have to find a really good balance in the end.
And then one day you have kids and it becomes incredibly difficult to wake up and hit the gym, right? Or you have to pick up your kids from school. So, you have responsibilities. You can't go out with your friends at night as much because you have to, take care of your son or your daughter. So it's like you can find routine and you can find balance and you can still find time for things that you really care about, right? If they are the right things, right?
Yeah, 100%. So who for you has been a major influence on your whole journey?
Well, there's people that I know and people that I don't know. So people that I don't know, I guess, is the ones that I mentioned earlier from these books that I've read or podcasts that I listen to. So one of the podcasts that I really recommend whoever is listening here is Rich Roll. So it's called Roll On. It's on Spotify, YouTube. And he's this guy from California who was an ultra endurance athlete, still does a lot of endurance sports. Previously he was a lawyer. Before that, he went through some drugs and alcohol problems as well. So he battled through that, and he then started his own podcast and his own journey. I think following his journey and the way he talks about his life has really impacted me. Second, I'd say my stepfather has really impacted me. I think more recently, just because he loves business. He's a big hustler. He also likes to enjoy life a lot, and everything he does, he is really, really present as well. So whether he's on holiday, he's present in what he's doing. If he's working his butt off and getting stuff done. He can get a lot from not much, right? So when he started, he didn't have that many resources, and he managed to build something really great. So I think I admire that a lot. My mom and my dad certainly had a huge impact on me growing up, the way they encouraged me to just go out and have fun and do what I love. I think that's really important. They didn't really force me to follow a certain path. I think I've been really privileged in that way, and they've always really supported me in that sense. So I think family plays a huge role for sure, or played a huge role in my life. Erin plays a huge role in my life, every day, from not letting me get too distracted with things, but also in enjoying life as well. And then for hustle, the people I work with here every day. I mean, I'm so amazed, man, every day with the people that I'm working with. You know, I mean, from our fitness team, I mean, the amount of knowledge and how quickly they're learning and how passionate they are about what they do. I think that really inspires me as well, for sure. From our management team, you know, how professional they are, how they're constantly thinking of ways we can do things better, you know, and they care about hustle like it's their own. That kind of also inspires me to continue doing what I'm doing, right? Yeah, I'd say that those people have had the biggest impact for sure. Hope I'm not missing anyone, in case they're watching.
What have been major events or obstacles in your life that shaped you, and have you overcome them?
Yeah, well, the main one was my father passed away when I was 15. I think that was a huge event in my life. You know, I was very close with him. He was a great person, and losing such a prominent figure in your life is very, very difficult, right? Maybe at the time I didn't realize how it was affecting me because I was 15, I was still young. I'm a teenager, you know. Yeah. That's when I started to kind of play more video games, trying to kind of distract myself. And I think now all of that is catching up to me now, right? When you're more mature, you're older. So how I dealt with this, well, therapy has helped a lot. I definitely recommend therapy to anyone. So I've been doing therapy now for 2 years, just to understand how it impacts you, right? Because sometimes you're so caught up in yourself that you need a third party to kind of give you a little bit of a sense of how these things have impacted you, right? But it also brought a lot of great things. I think, you know, it brought my siblings and myself, all of us together, really, really, you know, we have a very strong bond. Brought me close to my mom, you know, for sure. And I have an amazing relationship with my mom. So I think that it's you know, there's definitely things that come out of this as well. Also, it teaches you resilience, right? And knowing that you can get through these things, right? So
especially with the right people around you.
Exactly. And you know, a lot of people have the fear of losing someone, right? I'm not going to be able to survive that. I'm not able to handle that. Or the fear of a business failing, or the fear of, you know, you getting injured and not being able to play the sport that you love ever again, right? So having something so big happen to you at a younger age teaches you that you can get through anything.
I know, yeah, exactly. So it's like, what's the worst that can happen? Well, that was kind of the worst things that can happen.
Yeah, I mean, losing your parent is one of the worst things that you can have, especially so young, right? So, yeah, I think that was a big event. Other things that have impacted me, well, I'd say every single time that I've left my comfort zone, I think that's been an area of tremendous growth for me. So definitely getting outside of your comfort zone. I always want to be in a position, talking about your earlier question on your ideal lifestyle, I think no matter where I am in life, I want to be doing something that is slightly new, slightly uncomfortable, pushing yourself a little bit more, trying a new sport, trying a new language. I think there's been definitely times, whether it's me going to Nova Scotia in Canada and not knowing anyone and not knowing the culture, whether it's coming to Vietnam, not knowing the culture, not knowing how you do business here and getting things done. I think, you know, these are all challenges, but again, you overcome them, right? Yeah. And you realize, oh shit, I can go to Vietnam and I can start a business.
Comfort zone is not like a stationary level, right? Like once you've been through that, you stretch it a little bit further and you know you can handle more, Exactly. And then like, that's why I love doing business, because it's like almost like an adrenaline addiction towards the next step and to meet new people. Especially for me, I didn't have anxiety, but it was always like, oh, I have to meet new people and I have to talk to new people, and that was a big thing. And now I'm addicted to it. Yeah. Like it's so funny that.
But you change your perception on the same thing, right? It's like before it was like, I have to do it, or, you know, why am I sitting down in my couch? I should be out there meeting people, right? And now it's like, oh, I'm excited to go out and meet people, right? Who am I going to meet next, right? It's like the same thing, two different perspectives on it.
Yeah. So how would you tell people to get started on finding your comfort zone or what's outside your comfort zone? Very basic, like because there's a lot of people that that they're very happy where they are, but they want to grow themselves. Then you have to push yourself. So how to get started?
Well, I'd say the first thing is understanding what is your fear, right? What is ultimately your biggest fear, right? Of going out and setting up a business, or of starting a new project in the company that you're working on, right? Are you fear of failure? Are you fear of like, hey, I have a family and if I start something, I might lose my house, I might lose my car, I might lose, I can't put my kids through school. So understand what is your risks that you have, right, at play for any given situation, and evaluate that risk. And if that risk is big enough that, you cannot quit everything and just leave your family hanging, right, to start a business. But if your risk is, not life or death, then, you can go out and do something, right? So first is identifying your fear. Then it's looking at the environment around you and reaching out to people around you to bounce ideas off of, right? And use that as a sounding board for whatever it is that you're thinking, right? So whether it's, if you're starting an entrepreneurial journey, is talking to other entrepreneurs or talking to people who you really trust and confide in and hearing their opinion, right? And not ignoring it, like taking it into account.
So basically get known with the unknown.
Exactly.
By talking to other people.
Yeah, and then figure out what is your comfort zone, right? Is your comfort zone very small? Sometimes people have a bigger comfort zone, right? Because they've been expanding it over time. But if your comfort zone is smaller because say you've grown up in a certain city your whole life, the same friend group, and you haven't really ever expanded that friend group, and you've had the same job for 15 years and you're very comfortable in that, then, a comfort zone might be signing up to a marathon in that same city, right? Or a comfort zone might be trying to join a dance club and meet new friends in the dancing community, right? So it depends on what your comfort zone is. So identifying that comfort zone and then, identifying something that's outside and make it achievable.
Perhaps have some familiar elements within that unfamiliar thing to make it easier for you. Do you compare yourself with anyone?
Definitely. I think everyone compares themselves. I think it's just human nature. It's how often you do it and how much you dwell on it, right? I think I used to be victim of that a lot more. Growing up, I used to compare myself all the time, whether it's my peers in class or my friends in the football team that were better than me. It's like, they're better, they're stronger, they're more physically fit, they're more athletic, right? Why am I not like that, right? In business, it's like, oh, I have friends who've gone on and started businesses that are making a lot more money than I do, right? It's like, am I doing something wrong, right? So you can definitely question yourself a lot when you're comparing yourself, and it's normal to do it, to compare yourself. It's just, as soon as you realize you're doing that, realize that there's also no point in comparing yourself. Everyone has their own journey, right? And it takes time to realize that, but I guess as you grow and mature a little bit and have new experiences, you realize that, you're on your journey and make the most out of it. And that's it,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you went to university, but throughout your whole journey where you are right now, how do you value going to school or being self-taught or the experience of life? What is most important to you, or what did you learn of going to school? Because are you still learning those skills from school?
Yeah. Well, I think school shows that you can get something done, right? It's the first time in your life where you've gotten a degree, you've gotten a diploma, right? That shows that you're someone that people can rely on to accomplish something, right? Some people have other ways of showing that, so it's not the only way, right? I think that, but for those who do go to school, having that kind of achievement, it's already in itself a proof that you're able to go through something. Now, whether you're going to learn all your life lessons in university, definitely not, 100% not. Sometimes in university, you meet certain people that will impact you greatly in your way of thinking, your way of being, your future direction. So I think university is more than just books. It's also the people that you meet. And I think there's a lot of value in that. The relationship with your professors as well is really important, and how they influence you, right? It's just an opportunity to get exposure to more people, more ideas, more things, right? That might or might not shape the way your outlook in life. Hey, sometimes people have gone to university just to drop out because they've realized that that's not what they want. Had they not gone to university, they wouldn't have realized that, exactly. Right? So that's also the power of university. It's like, hey, it might not be for you. That's learning, right? So you learn that by going there. Now, do I think that, I mean, take hustle, right? I mean, I think in 2 years, I've gotten a master's degree in entrepreneurship, in finance, in accounting, in management, in leadership, in small business law, in Vietnam politics to a certain extent, right? In construction, in human resources, in sales, operations, in 2 years, right? Now I can open another business and apply all this that I'm learning and do it much better the second time, right? So the amount of knowledge I got from 2 years in Vietnam, it's way more than what I think you can learn in a business school. I think the biggest life experience is just life itself and going out there and getting it done.
100%, yeah. So are you happy on your path you are right now?
Yeah, 100%. I think that, we all have ups and downs, right? But I'm certainly very, very happy with what I'm doing. I love hustle. I love our community. I love our team. Also looking back at the journey and looking at where we're at right now, I'm incredibly proud of what we've achieved, right? So yeah, I think that I'm super, super happy with that. I have a great relationship with Aaron, and we're going to get married next year, so I'm very happy on a personal level, which is awesome. Yeah, my family's healthy. My relationship with my family is really good. I get to see them quite often. I'm lucky enough to be able to go to Europe a few times a year and see them. They also come to see me. So, knock on wood, but everything is great right now, and I'm very fortunate for that.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Do you have any other tips for people to get into personal development or to reach their full potential, for example?
Yeah, I think first, if you're interested in becoming better, right, there's a lot of resources out there, Definitely books is a great place to start. So reading up on self-development, picking up a book, whether it's about your career path or about understanding some issues that you're dealing with personally, there's a lot of resources out there. So that's a great place to start. I've done therapy, and I highly recommend that, just because it allows you to talk to someone about it, and sometimes that really helps and getting a different perspective. I've also joined focus groups where it's like a give and talk, where it teaches you to talk about your situation or things that you're going through, but it also teaches you about listening and how to listen, right? And how to help others as well. And I think through listening, to really understanding other people's journey, you end up learning a lot about your own. So sometimes it's, get out of your own head and start listening and talking to people and understanding other people's journey. Yeah, so reading, therapy has really helped me. Focus groups have really helped me. Podcasts have certainly helped me a lot, right? Yeah. So there's so many podcasts on mindset, on self-development that, there's no limit to resources out there. So yeah.
Cool. Do you have a favorite quote or philosophy you go by?
I'd say, right? No matter how big or how small that is, accomplish something every single day. Don't let a day go by where you're like, I didn't accomplish anything, right? So yeah, I think that's a big one.
That's a big one indeed.
Yeah.
Where can people follow you?
Check out my Instagram, Javier Ballve. I try to be active there.
Stories, yeah.
I'm still trying to identify, figure out what is my identity on social media. Dude, that's so hard because it's interesting. Society tends to put people in a box, right? They'll box you in your personality. Oh, that guy's a fitness gym person. That guy's a videographer. Right? That's you, right? Your personality. You're a videographer. That's all you do, right? Yeah. That guy's a runner, right? All his videos are running, right? That guy's a business guy. So it's so challenging when you don't really identify with one particular box, right?
Yeah.
That you're so many things that it becomes difficult, right? To figure out your brand identity, call it. So anyway, all that to say, follow me on Instagram. I'm posting some stuff out there about hustle, about travels, about my journey, Facebook as well, and now in this podcast.
Nice. We'll all be linked down below. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm very happy we finally made it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully, we can see this series grow and do a second episode sometime in the future.
Oh yeah, that's perhaps in the future thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, man. When am I going to get you in here for another workout?
Yeah. Cut.
Exactly.